This is a lesson in good staging. You ever notice that God doesn't just do good things, He stages it well? Like He's got His purpose to teach us things, but often He uses that to teach others things, so others see it. There's so many good things to pull out of this passage today. Y'all know what providence is. I kind of gave the definition earlier. What is providence? Don, if somebody in your class downstairs on a Sunday morning asked, what's providence? How would you answer?
Call Tom.
What?
Call Tom.
Call Tom.
I would just say that it's when the Lord moves in just everyday circumstances instead of something big and miraculous like a flash and bang. The way He moves, He gives His will in regardless.
Yeah. And so if you want God to use providence in your life, keep moving, right? And you never know what He's gonna do, and that's what's going to happen in this. We ended chapter 8 with Israel wanting a king. Why did Israel want a king? Well, because everybody else had one. What else? All right, so a king that could lead the battles. Why did God say they wanted a king? Because what? Because they rejected Him as king. They got all these other excuses, and what it really comes down to, God says, look, all that other stuff, it's I got good daughters. Let me ask you a question. Discussion time. Was Saul God's choice for a king of Israel? How's that for a trick question?
He was his choice, but it wasn't his ultimate choice.
All right. It was.
David said the only reason he didn't kill him is because he was anointed by God.
Correct. So that's a good point, because David said, I won't touch him, because how can I touch the Lord's anointed? All right, so God did it. God chose it, but was Saul what God wanted to do? No. But he did it. Why did he do it? Because they asked for it. Does God ever give us what we ask for if it's not best for us? Let me tell you, He will. Now, sometimes He won't. Sometimes He will. When He does give you what He didn't want to give you, it's usually not a good thing. It's usually when He sees a rebellious heart and says, I want to give you what you want to show you that's not good. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Bless you. Let me show you a verse before we even look at it first, Samuel, go to Hosea. Hosea, just before Joel Amos died, you get all those little prophets. Back up, you'll find, after Ezekiel, Daniel, you'll find Hosea. I want you to go to Hosea chapter 13. Once again, God is defending His kingship, His lordship, His rulership, His godship, whatever you want to call it. God is defending to Israel, why don't you follow me? I mean, how many times have we seen God doing this with Israel? So He's doing it again. Look at verse 4, Hosea 13:4. But I have been the Lord your God ever since you came out of Egypt. You shall acknowledge no God but me, no Savior except me. I cared for you in the wilderness, in the land of burning heat. When I fed them, they were satisfied. When they were satisfied, they became proud, and they forgot me. All right, so what is God's assessment of the situation? Does God show up and be faithful? Yeah. What did they do? So thank you for the food, but I'll handle myself, thank you. Right? Look down in verse 9. You are destroyed, Israel, because you are against me, against your helper. Like, don't you get it? I'm here to help you, and you fight me. I can't keep helping you when you're fighting me. Keep going. Watch this. I love this. Where is your king that he may save you? Where are your rulers in all your towns, of whom you said, give me a king and princes? So, in my anger, I gave you a king. Y'all reading what I'm reading? So whose choice was it? God's choice. To bless them with a king? No. To basically punish them with what they're asking for because they're rebelling against him. So I want you to go back to 1 Samuel now. And to see how Providence plays into this, I mean, we've got to understand what's going on there. Imagine, first, how many of you pre-read chapter 9 for tonight? Oh, good. About 3 of you. Some of you had that guilty look on your face. I didn't ask you to. It's okay. I'm not mad at anybody. But suppose you had no clue of the first 14 verses. Don't glance at it yet. And you jump into verse 15. And it says, now the day before, the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel. Or who's Samuel? The prophet. He's the one who was the last judge. He was, at this time, still the leader. But he tried to pass it on to his kids. They're no good. And Israel rejected that and rejected God as king. That's where we left chapter 8, right? So now the Lord's coming to Samuel. It says, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel. About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him ruler over my people Israel. All right. How is Saul going to get to Samuel? God says, I will. I'm going to send him. So God is sending him. All right. So if God's going to send him, now if you jumped in the story here and you said, oh, God is going to send a man to Samuel to be anointed as the first king of Israel, how might you think God would send him? Maybe an angel. Can you hear it? The angel shows up in front of Saul and he's like, oh, an angel, fear not. You know how angels always start that way? Fear not. Oh, can you talk quieter then? Fear not. For thou hast been given this great, thing in life to be the next king over Israel, first king over Israel. God has chosen thee to, what do I do? Well, you pick up your bags and go walk and you'll find Samuel, You see my point? You could be the king. So what does God do? Telling Samuel, I'm going to get a man to come to you. How does God do it? You ready? His dad loses his donkeys.
And he wonders, I checked it out on the map. It's like he starts here and goes this way and goes that way.
He wanders all over. Like if you look at, went from here to here to here to here, it's not like here to here to here to here. It's like here to here to here to here. All right? He's all over the place. So I just want us to get into mind how God is going to do this and see God's hand through the mundane, through the normal stuff. All right, now, all that introduction, and we start in verse 1. And we're going to cover it all. Now, there was a Benjamite what's the problem with the Benjamin already? Anybody recognize the problem? We're talking about the next king. What's the problem?
Smallest tribe, things down, almost wiped out.
We'll get to that in a minute. You're exactly right. We'll get to that in a minute. But what's the problem with Benjamin? Being from the tribe of Benjamin. Not right. Was it ever God's intention to give them a king? Yes, it was. How do we know? In the rules of the law that God gave Moses are the laws for a king. Well, why would God put that in there if he never intended to give them a king? Did God intend to give them a king? Yes. What tribe is that king going to come from? The scepter will never leave? Judah. This is Benjamin. This is not part of that prophecy because it wasn't God's time. You ever, think that, well, God wants this for me, so therefore I should have it, when maybe God says, yes, I have that, I want that for you, but not yet and not that way. Sometimes we have to wait for God's timing for things. And that's kind of what's going on here. Not only the timing, but were their hearts ready to follow the king who would follow God? No. They wanted a king that they could respect from a human, fleshly point, not a king because of his righteousness or his walk with God. We'll see that here in a minute. There was a Benjamite, a man of standing. That's what it says in the NIV. What other translations do you have? What other ways is he described? A mighty man of power. Is that King James? New King James? Mm-hmm. It really, when you look those words up, it really is talking about affluent power. He's wealthy and well respected. That's what that. It doesn't mean power like warrior. It didn't stop it. Yes, that's really what it's referring to. So this guy, his name is Kish, son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bacharath, the son of Elphia of Benjamin. Kish had a son named Saul, as handsome a young man as could be found anywhere in Israel. Why did God choose the best looking man for this? Because God looks at the heart, but man looks on the outward appearance. You want a king? I'll give you the king you want. The best looking, tallest, strongest, wealthy. Yep, I know what you're looking for. I'll give that to you. And he was a head taller than anyone else. He was literally a head turner. Like when he walked into the room or down the road, the girls, the young maidens were like, ooh, ooh, good looking, tall, handsome. That's kingly right there. That prince is coming from that line. That's what we want. Can you see the fleshly attitude in that? What's that? Exactly. I don't want to go back to just because of time. I had it written and I was going to do it. But if we went back, he's a Benjamite. And Kathy alluded to it a minute ago. What do we know about the Benjamites from the last chapter of the book of Judges? As it's ending out the time of the judges, and Samuel comes after that, and that's it. It's the last judge. What happened to the Benjamites? A guy and his concubine go to a Benjamite city. It is almost the same exact story as Sodom and Gomorrah. They come in, nobody's taking them in. This guy says, come into my house, it's dangerous out here. The men in the city, all the men come together to that house and say, we want these men to have our way with them. This is a Benjamite Israelite city. And the guy says, no, they're guests. We don't treat guests that way. Take my daughters and the concubine. Puts the concubine out there so that they're safe. They do things to her that are unspeakable, and she ends up dead. And so they take her body. This is Judges. This is, in the Bible. They take her body, cut it up into 12 pieces, and send it to all the tribes of Israel, saying, this is what the Benjamites have done. So then they come against the Benjamite clan, the whole clan, the Benjamites. And they go to battle against them. And they kill all the men except 600 that fled and hid in the mountains. When those 600 fled, went and hid in the mountains, they came and they killed all the women and children, leaving only the 600. Now, that leaves a problem. All of a sudden they go, oh, wait a minute. We didn't think about this. Because now we're down to 11 tribes, and they have no way of keeping that tribe going. And we made a vow that none of us would give our daughters to the Benjamites after what they did. But if we don't, they'll disappear. What do we do? And this is, remember, every man doing that which is right in his own eyes. So they said, here's what we'll do. We'll have a festival for the youth. And we'll have all the young maidens come out and tell the Benjamites, go and kidnap a woman and take her as your wife. And when the fathers come to us, what are you doing? We got to stop them. Say, no. That way, we didn't give them wives. They took them. We're safe. Our vow is secure. There you go. And thus maintains the tribe of Benjamin, out of which comes Saul. That's quite a story, is it not? Go back and read Judges 19 and 20 and 21, and you'll find that story. So here we have this man of standing in this tribe, and he's handsome. He's tall. And the girls will, look, sneak peek, look at verse 11. As they were going up the hill to the town, they met some young women coming out to draw water. And they asked them, is the seer here? I can just hear those girls, yes. You know, like, look at me, you know. They were happy to talk to this, you know, hunk of a guy, you know. Back to verse 3. Now the donkeys belonging to Saul's father Kish were lost. And Kish said to his son Saul, take one of the servants with you and go look for the donkeys. So he passed through the hill country of Ephraim and through the area around Shalisha, but they did not find them. They went on to the district of Shalim, but the donkeys were not there. Then he passed through the territory of Benjamin, but they did not find them. When they reached the district of Zuph, and we'll stop right there. They get to Zuph, and that's where something's going to happen. So they're going to all these different places. And they're finally at Zuph. When you look at these verses, what I want to do is take a moment to tell you, like, this is not a fairy tale. These are real life people. So I want you to get into the mode of looking at their world, their life, what they were going through. What can we learn about Saul and his family by the verses we just read? Some obvious things. What do you see here? I know how the donkeys got lost and why they eluded everybody. We'll get to that, yeah. But donkeys get lost. What does the father do? Son, go find the donkeys. What's the son do? Okay. Is he obedient? Yeah. And do they have servants? How do we know they have servants? Because he's supposed to take one with them. Why didn't they just send the servants? Couldn't they just say, oh, servants, go find them? But they're responsible for their stuff. They're not mean to their servants. They have their servants there to help them. In fact, I think he had a pretty good relationship with the servant. Little, again, sneak peek as to why. When they go looking for Samuel, the seer, the prophet, Saul says, oh, wait, but if we go ask him for some help, I got nothing to give him. And the servant says, hang on, I got some change in my pocket. So I'm here to help. And it reminds me of my family. I got no money, but my kids got no money. You know. And here, the wealthy man's son, Saul, has no money, but his servant has the money. And so we'll get to that in a minute. But I just see an obedient son, taking care of his things, doing what his father wanted him to do. And even as we get to Zuph, verse 5, when they reached the district of Zuph, Saul said to the servant who was with him, we need to go back. Let's go back. Why? Is he just flat giving up? Like, I'm tired of looking for I don't care about these donkeys. But why does he say he needs to go back? Read it and tell me. Because my dad's going to be worried for me. He was worried about the donkeys, but I know my dad. He's going to be more worried about me than the donkeys. What's that tell you about the relationship? Not only that his dad would think that way, but that the son is saying, I know Dad wants these donkeys, but he's going to be worried. I don't want him worried. We need to get back and put his heart at rest. You see the relationship going on here. They're considering the needs of the other. It's a decent family, the best that we can tell.
He was diligent.
Yes.
This wasn't, spend a few hours. He covered a lot of ground. And it was not easy topography. Just north of Jerusalem, that we were in the mountains. So it wasn't just on hike.
Right.
So he worked
Diligently to do it. And I'm going to say this, sneak peek to next week when we hit chapter 10, is he was right about his father. Because on their way home, Samuel tells them they will meet men. And look what happens in verse 2 of chapter 10. When you leave me today, you will meet two men near Rachel's tomb at Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. They will say to you, the donkeys you set out to look for have been found, and now your father has stopped thinking about them and is worried about you. So was Saul right? Yeah, he understood the relationship with his dad. Now this is where providence happens. In the mundane, normal life, we might even say that it's through problems. God brought problems. Do you think it was an enjoyable day? Let's go looking for the donkeys. I'm probably thinking those stupid donkeys. I'm wasting all this time. Was he wasting time? But did they think they were wasting time? Are you tracking? God has things in our life that are uncomfortable. And we can complain about it, and it's like, it's that slave's fault, or this slave's fault, or my dad's fault. They left the gate open. Who didn't lock that gate? Well, I don't care who didn't lock. Maybe somebody failed to lock the gate and the donkeys got out. Maybe somebody didn't repair the fence and that weak part of the fence got knocked over. Seems normal, doesn't it? But who was behind it? God was. Could they have possibly known that God was behind it while it was happening? No. Unless you are walking with God in such a way that you know if something bad happens, it's because God's doing something in my life, and you start looking for his providence. What a wonderful way to approach a problem. Right? And you can get to the point where when problems happen, you say, oh, God's doing something. This story confirms to me why I pray for the Lord's will and not simply what I think is the best solution. If you were Saul at that time and you were praying, what would you pray for? Help us find the donkeys right away. Bring the donkeys back. That would be our solution, would it not? And with enough faith, you would expect that to happen, right? No. Y'all been listening Sundays, haven't you? But maybe to pray, Lord, help us find them according to your will. If you're doing something with this, don't let us miss the opportunity. Does that make sense? How to approach a problem? Look at verse 6. But the servant replied, look, in this town, there's a man of God. He is highly respected, and everything he says comes true. Let's stop right there. Important things happening Don't read it too fast. First thing, what do we know about Samuel? From that verse. He's known as a man of God. What he says comes true. He has the reputation for that. As a godly man, and his words come true. That he's known throughout different towns. They all know this. Right? Now here's something interesting though. Who knew that about Saul and knew that Saul was from that area? I'm Samuel. Samuel. Who knew that Samuel was from that area, that Samuel had that reputation? The servant did. It's almost like Saul, like Samuel. That's what will get me now. It's almost like Saul is saying, who? A what? Where? Often it is those less fortunate that need to depend on God that know more about God. Now, I'm not saying that wealthy can't. We know several people with wealth that love the Lord and they show it. But often it's somebody else. Look at 2 Kings. 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings. 2 Kings chapter 5. Naaman has leprosy. He's wealthy, a ruler. In verse 1, it says, now Naaman, this is 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. Keep your finger in 1 Samuel, we're going right back. Now Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. That's not even Israelite people. Did God even in the Old Testament work through non-Israelites? Yeah, he did. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy. Now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel. And she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, if only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. By all means, go, the king of Aram replied. I will send a letter, da. Where did the news come to the wealthy? Through a servant. God does not use people the way we would think they'd be used. He's using Saul, affluent family, good-looking guy, but who he's actually working through? The servant. Y'all see that? In verse 5, it says, and they reached the district of Zuph. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but 1 Samuel 1, let me read that for you. All the way back to the first verse, where it was kind of getting set up for that. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite. Does that sound familiar? From the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had two wives. One was called Hannah. Who's Hannah? Samuel's mother. So Samuel's family are Zuphites. Where are they at? Now in chapter 9. Where's Saul at in chapter 9? In Zuph. Whose land is that? Samuel's. We're in Samuel's stomping grounds. You see? And the servant not only knew that there was a man of God, but he heard the story, he knew what region he was in. And so he goes and he says, hey, I think I've heard of this place. Look at verse 7. Let me finish 6. But the servant replied, look, in the town there's this man of God. He's highly respected, and everything he says comes true. Let us go there now. Perhaps he will tell us what way to take. So let's find him. He's easier to find than a donkey. And maybe he'll tell us where to find the donkeys. Makes good sense. Saul said to his servant, if we go, what can we give the man? The food in our sacks is gone. We have no gift to take the man of God. What do we have? The servant answered him again, look, he said, I have a quarter of a shekel of silver. All right, so 1 shekel, a quarter of that. Let me put that, it's silver. To put that in today's language, that is about 1/10 of an ounce. So in today's money, an ounce, I looked it up today, is like 36.4 something dollars. So he had a coin worth about $3.60. Is what worth of today. You get the idea. Now I don't know if $3.60 was a day's wage, a week's wage, a month's wage, but it definitely, the donkeys were worth that. Now the servant's carrying it around, it's not much. He said, I will give the man, I will give it to the man of God so that he will tell us which way to take. Oh, there's more truth to that than he realizes. Verse 9. Formerly in Israel, if someone went to inquire of God, they would say, come, let us go to the seer. Because the prophet of today used to be called seers. All right, so there's just explaining, to be accurate in the history of what happened. We call them seers. Here's why. It's what we call prophets now. That's what the author is saying. Verse 10. Good, Saul said to his servant, come, let us go. So they set out for the town where the man of God was. As they were going up the hill to the town, they met some young women coming out to draw water, and they asked them, is the seer here? He is, they answered. He's ahead of you. Hurry now. Well, why hurry? Because you got to catch him. In other words, what luck. He's not always here, but he's only going to be for a little bit. If you go now, you can catch him. But if you don't catch him, we'll see in a minute. If you don't catch him, he's going into a party that is pretty much by invitation only. The people that are eating there are people invited. So if you go now, you can catch him before he's uncatchable. Does that make sense? What luck they got there when he can still be caught. You think that's luck? I mean, they've been wandering all day. Why did they show up earlier? Why did they show up 10 minutes later when it was too late? Who's in charge of how long it took them to be in that spot at that moment? It's Providence. He has just come to our town today. Why didn't the donkeys get out yesterday? Providence. For the people have a sacrifice at the high place. As soon as you enter the town, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. You got to get him then, before he goes up. Why? The people will not begin eating until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Who goes to eat? Those who are invited. So go up now. You should find him about this time. So they went up to the town, and as they were entering it, what luck! There was Samuel coming toward them on his way to the high place. Luck? Chance? Providence. Providence. God had that all set up. Now this is where I love the way God works. Because what we're about to find out in the next verse that I read earlier, Saul had no clue what was going on. This is Providence, right? But the whole time Saul didn't know what was going on, God had told Samuel, and Samuel was preparing for him. What Saul doesn't know, the invited guest, he's the head invited guest. He's the one Samuel said, yeah, let's have this party, and tells the cook, and I got special guests coming, save the best hunk of meat for this guy. Who's that guy? Saul. to a guy who doesn't even know he's going to the party. He's just looking for a donkey. It shows God's orchestration of things. Some he lets them know what's going on. Others he does not let them go on, but he's bringing them together at the gate. How cool is that? Oh, I wish I had more time, but I told too much time telling my story about Lazarus. All right, I'm gonna. If this were a movie, right about now, the letters would come across the screen, pause, and 24 hours earlier, or one day before. You hate those in the movies when they do that. You know, like all of a sudden something's about to happen. They go 24 hours earlier, and they back up and they tell you the story. Well, that's what happens here in verse 15. Now the day before Saul came, the Lord revealed to Samuel about this time tomorrow, same time but tomorrow, so 24 hours earlier, I will send you a man. How did God send him? Providence, through, be specific, donkeys. I want to read for you Psalm 105. You don't have to turn there, you can if you want. Psalm 105 and verse 16. It says, He, God, called down famine on the land and destroyed all the supplies of food. And he sent a man before them, Joseph, sold as a slave. They bruised his feet with shackles. His neck was put in irons, till what he foretold came to pass, till the word of the Lord proved true. What Joseph is that? The Joseph that was sold by his brothers, imprisoned, falsely accused of rape, all kinds of things. Do you think that those were pleasant experiences for him? This tells us why God allowed those to happen. Why was it? God sent a man. God sent Saul, Paul, in the New Testament. God sent Paul to Rome. How did he do it? How did God send Paul to Rome? In prison, in shackles, with a shipwreck and a snake bite. How many want to be sent by God? How come nobody's raising their hand? Because God can use things to send us that make us stronger. Okay? And when you think about what Joseph went through, I want to do this. Genesis 37. This is just too good to pass up. Genesis 37, verse 14 says, So he said to him, Go and see if all is well with your brothers. This is, the brothers were out tending the flocks. And the dad tells Joseph, Go check on your brothers. And so he wanders around the wilderness looking for his brothers. Does this sound familiar at all yet? Kish tells Saul, we're looking for the donkeys. Wander around the wilderness and find the donkeys. Are you seeing the similarities yet? Now watch, this to me is some of the greatest news of Providence. Keep reading in Genesis 37. Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring back word to me. Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. So at this point, Dad thinks he's sending Joseph. Who's really sending Joseph? God is. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields. Y'all seeing something here? A man. Who's the man? Who is he? We don't know. What's he doing? He's out happened to be in the same place as Joseph? God moved him there. I mean, maybe his donkey was missing. He was out wandering the field looking for a donkey. I don't know what it was, but God had him there, and he sees Joseph. Now watch the providence in this, because if he weren't there, Joseph would not have known where to go. Now watch this. He found him wandering in the fields and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He replied, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?" "Well, they have moved on from here," the man answered, "and I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" What a coincidence. He happened to be there when they were saying, at the moment they said, "Hey, let's go on to Dothan." What are the odds that the one man out in the field would run into Joseph, would be the one man who happened to see the brothers and overhear where they were going? Coincidence? I think not. And then the verse goes on to say, "And so he went and found his brothers, but when his brothers saw him coming, they plotted to kill him before he got there." If you didn't know the rest of the story, you would say, what bad luck that that man was there and pointed him in the right direction. Wouldn't it have been better for Joseph to have not found where his brothers were? No, because God had plans that were going to be very difficult for the next decade, but would be the Savior of their people. That's providence. There's like so many things Satan could have tried to do to stop it, but God used all these things, even things that people were doing wrong to somebody else. When that person stayed faithful to God, regardless of what the other persons were doing, what happened? God used that to move that person into positions where, wow. Yes, Jimmy?
In 1976, I was in college. I had a night class, and I was coming back from Somerset, and I ran off the road, and the gravel rolled me up. Well, I've been sitting here trying to figure out, how do I interpret what providence? Well, I heard what Donna said, I heard what you said, and I'm sitting, I'm not getting confused, but I'm going to pull it up myself, and I pulled up the protective care of God. Or of natural as a spiritual power. So, I wasn't saved then, so do you think that was a providence? God saved me?
Oh, yeah, like, I think God uses all kinds of things. I mean, and I could go on, I mean, it's 5 minutes late right now, but I could go on. There was a time that we were driving up in California. You knew that was coming, didn't you? And we had just gone up these winding roads up towards Sequoia National Forest, and we had, the roads were so windy, you couldn't go fast. So I had the kids buckle in, slide the van door open, and they're taking pictures out the side where, right there is an edge, it's like a 600-foot drop off. Yeah, and we're going 20 miles an hour, you know, we're just zigzagging our way up the mountain. We get all the way up the mountain, back to the back, you know, the way this park worked is you find the campsite, you put your stuff down, then you go up in front, you tell them what campsite you're in, and you pay your fee. So I pull into back in, and as I'm backing in, the van goes like this, and a bunch of other people, campers, were walking by, and they're all pointing, and they're freaking out. I'm thinking I ran over a dog or a kid or something. I'm like, what? And I jump out, and my tires are going like this. My tie rod end broke right there. And I was happy because it wasn't a kid or an animal that, you know, I ran over. And they're like, why are you so happy? You're in the middle of nowhere. And I said, it doesn't matter. Everybody's safe. This is stuff. It's going to go away. God's going to use this. And they thought I was nuts. Okay? So I go down to the ranger station and I tell them what happened. And they said, all right, here's what's going to happen. We will call down there right now and tell them what happened. It usually takes 3 or 4 days before they can get somebody to bring a flatbed truck up from Fresno. It's a 2.5-hour drive one way. And they said they're going to have to drive all the way up here in a flatbed truck, pick up your van, and drive all the way back. And I'm just cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. But I had towers insurance to the closest shop. So that it didn't cost me a thing for that, right? Anyway, so they said it'll take 3 or 4 days till they come get you. When they come get you, you need to have a pack of clothes ready because you'll go down and it will take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to get into a shop to have it repaired. So set your family up, they're going to be here for a while. I'm like, okay, but they're alive.
And the government didn't bring over from that month.
Yeah, and that it happened there. If it had happened around in one of those corners, that'd have been a real letdown. And you all fell for that. Anyway, drop it. And so we, I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking. I asked the Rangers, what can I do? What can I do to set my family up so they're not bored? And they said, well, there is a horse trail thing. I said, I'm going to set them up for tomorrow. We're going to go on a horse ride, and we're going to do that, And so we went down, because I wanted to encourage the family and say it's going to be all right. So I had to walk a few miles. So I walked down to theirs, and then, because I didn't have a car, and then I walked all the way back and walked 1.5 miles back into the campgrounds where we were. As I got to the campsite, the flatbed was backing into our campsite. I'm like, what are you doing here? And he said, well, they called down there, and usually we're busy for 3 or 4 days, and wouldn't you know, somebody else ran the other one. I was getting ready to go home, and I thought, no, this is a good run. I'm going to make some extra money. And said, so here I am. Get your stuff. So I'm grabbing my stuff and not waiting 3 or 4 days. And I tell Gila, tomorrow you got this horse thing. You're going to have to walk the kids 4 miles to it. Start early, but you guys can have fun. I will be here with you. Gotta go. Grab my bag, grab my Bible, jump in the truck. And as soon as we got in the truck, we're not even out of the campgrounds yet. He goes, is that a Bible? I said, well, yeah. And he said, you believe that? I said, with all my heart. He goes, man, I got questions. Good, we got 2.5 hours. And I knew immediately why the van broke down. And why it broke down when it did. And why they called when they did. And why the other person took the route he thought he was going. It all made sense. And we talked about the gospel all the way down there. We get down there, and there's no cell phone service till you're half an hour outside of Fresno. And he even told me, he says, as soon as we pass this old broken down gas station, I'll be able to make a call. And as soon as he passes, picks up his phone, calls down there and says, hey, I got a guy coming in with a tie rod end. Can you look at it? They said, it'll be 5 days before we look at it. And I said, tell them it's just a tie rod end. I was parking the van. Nothing else is bent. Nothing else is broken. So he tells them that. They said, well, all right, that's a quick job too. If he's right, we'll take a quick look at it. If he's right and that's all it is, we'll try to fix it. So I get there 15 minutes before close. They looked at it and said, yeah, we can do this. Buy the part now. Pay the labor now because they're shutting the registers. I did. 45 minutes later, I'm in my van driving out of there. I was up. I got pizza at Pizza Hut, got back to the mountain, and parked before midnight that day. All that happened so that man could hear the gospel. I got up in the morning to go thank the Rangers, and they said, hey, you never know, maybe today they'll show up. I said, no, they came and got me yesterday. They said, what are you doing here now? I said, we got it fixed last night. They said, we've worked here over 20 years, and it has never happened. I'm like, man, that's God. That's God. Well, there's more to chapter 9. We'll pick it up next week because I'm already 10 minutes over, and I apologize. But listen, providence. Let God work when you don't see him working. Sometimes his protection looks like problems. Sometimes he's advancing things you never know. Well, how can lost donkeys? How can my brothers selling me into slavery? How can being falsely accused? How can God be using this? These are wrong. God can do it. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, we thank you for this day. And we thank you for the scriptures and the encouragement of watching how you work. And I pray that you would help us to be encouraged as we look at these scriptures from the Old Testament and learn from it. In Jesus' name.